Today's build is sponsored by the Cargo Hold, an amazing Star Wars group for collectors showcasing their collections, buying and selling items, and generally geeking out over Star Wars. So a massive thank you to the Cargo Hold. Okay, so today is a bit more of an exciting day because we've finished the helmets, and those have been, we saw you earlier on, they've been weathered, etc. All looking good. I'm happy with how these look. We have also weathered little cameras that go on the straps, so those are looking great too. And we have weathered these little holders for the torches, so they go on like so, as you can see there, and that will attach to the helmet. And we've also scuffed the torches as well, so we'll get them added on. So now we can start to put things together. The only thing I've still got to do is add a red stripe along the Death Sticks box. But once that's done and dry, we can add that to it as well. But we're going to get everything else put together. So I'm going to attach a little camera to this here. We're then going to add in our cloth over the holes in the inside. And what I'm planning on doing with that is maybe adding 2 or 3 layers. So you add your initial layer, have one rotated round so the crisscrosses are slightly different angle. Add another layer and then do the same again, maybe with a 3rd layer. And I'll do that for each of the parts with the holes across both helmets. So that's what we're going to hopefully get done and pretty much get this finished. So yeah, let's just crack on and start with adding the cameras to the helmet. Okay, so it gets added to the bottom sort of hole here. And what I'm going to do is just take my scalpel and just very gently scrape away some of the paint that's here, just so I can get a better covering for the glue. And not taking away too much, but just a little. And that will help just the glue just to set a little. If I thought ahead of time, I would have masked that a little bit out. Okay, that's what I'm just going to give that. That's probably going to be enough. That's probably going to be enough. And then what's going to happen is this little camera, I'm going to place in and glue in around here. Oops. Let's see. Glue in around there so that it sits in. I want it to protrude just a little. So it's sticking out just ever so slightly, but not too much. And it'll be glued something like that along the inside. And I'm just keeping the ribbon on from the camera and just gluing that in there as well. Just because can't be bothered taking it off. And if anything else, it adds a little extra dimension to it. Even though you don't really want to see the inside because of the masked parts. So I'm just going to grab some glue. Then just using the Gorilla, even easy for me to say, Gorilla Glue. And I'm just going to add a couple of dabs on the inside here. Not too much. There we go, just a little bit there. And I'm just going to get the camera. Just set that in. Again, I'm just going to make sure it's protruded a little. Not too much. Moving around like quite a lot. I'm going to leave it there. So it's basically sitting in like that. As you can see, just sticking out ever so slightly. Just going to adjust ever so slightly if I can. There we go. And that's what it looks like on the inside at the moment. So I'm just going to let that set. And we should be good to go. Just going to glue the little strap on the inside. So that's against the helmet. Getting some glue along the actual ribbon. Again, just can't be bothered taking this one off. But if I do tidy up the inside, at least it'll start to look the part. Then you can rip this off if you wish. I just didn't bother. I'm going to glue that on the inside and wait for that to dry. Don't stick my fingers. Just like that. And we'll leave that for a few minutes and get the next one done. Right, leave that to set. So that's both of the cameras in. As you can see, I'm just going to leave that for 10 minutes and then we'll start while we're cutting up the fabric. And that should be dry by that point, by the time we stick it on. So I'm really happy with them. Those are looking good. Yep, like that. So we're good to go with the cameras. Move them to one side just now. Feel my fingers sticking together. Let's get the glue out. So this was a fabric. This was the army fabric that I purchased. And I just want to basically cut parts of the fabric out. You sip of coffee, excuse me. And this is like black army fabric. So it looks like that with the holes. And basically what I'm going to do is do it in different layers. So I'm crisscrossing the pattern across various parts of it. So what I'm going to do is just going to take the strip. Actually, I'll cut about here. It's actually not the easiest to cut. Try differently. Yeah, these scissors are better. There we go. Take a little strip like that. Yep. Compose our scissors out the way. Some little strips. And I just want to have enough of a strip to cover that. So it's going to be like a square. Doesn't matter if it's slightly bigger. So it's going to be a little square. So what I'm going to do is just basically half this down the middle. And that should be enough for that part. That'll give me two. There's one. And there's two. So hopefully that'll be enough to cover both. It is more than enough. The only thing I need to cut out is around the camera. So that gets covered. So I need to cut a little slit here. So that'll be that one, and then this one will go on top at a slightly different angle. Trying to see how the circles work. So it used to be a jointy angle, something like that. And basically what you're trying to do is get that effect. And I'll probably do a third one on top of that again as well. So I'm going to cut out another number of squares because we need it for both helmets. So I'm just going to go down the middle again. I'm going to do the whole fabric because we are going to need it for both. And anything extra might cover some of the smaller holes. Just doing a rough cut. And then anything can basically get trimmed and things like that from there. Okay, so let's look at a little bit of bunch of fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for that part to dry in there. In fact, it should be okay now. Yeah, that's not moving. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to start figuring this out. So I'll put one fabric like that on the inside. We'll glue that in. I'm just going to put a little slit up towards the camera. So I'm just going to position this here. Do a little slit here. And hopefully that will be enough just to get around the camera. So what I'm just going to do is just grab my super glue. In fact, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put on some gloves. just to keep the glue, etc. off my fingers. And hopefully don't glue the gloves to the helmet, because this is going to get a bit messy with the gluing fabric. So just, again, taking my super glue. And on the inside, I'm going to go, take my glasses off. I'm going to go around the outside of the holes, so I can, as close as I can, so I can glue parts of that in, spread that around a wee bit. I'm going to do here as well. So I don't want it to be too loose around that. And I'm just going to add a bit more glue all the way around. Something like that. I'm just going to find where the split is in the fabric. And I'm just going to place this here. And all going well. Yep. Just going to move that around the camera where the split was. I'm going to pat this down, and yep, I'm getting glue all over my fingers. I'm going to rub this down just to make it flat. And we're going to leave that to dry for a minute before we apply it in the next one. So I'm just going to leave that to set. Just want to make sure it's flat as possible along the edge. And I might just cut some of this fabric away with the scalpel once it's dried in. Yeah, you can start to see it's getting a bit messy. So it's always good just to put on gloves. Okay, so you can see there, that's what it sort of looks like at the front at this moment in time. We'll wait for that to dry a little bit, and then we'll add on a second one. Basically what I've done is that was square, but I cut off corners because I'm putting this across the way and it was hanging over. So again, I'm just going to get a little bit more glue. I don't know if it's a fabric, but this glue with this fabric is absolutely stinking. So I'm just going to add in a couple of dabs here and there. Just make sure I get that covered. Just covering, putting the bottle on, or the cap on the blue again, so it doesn't dry out. Again, I put a little split in here, and I'm just putting this around here. Again, so I've got a second layer up at the top. And we're going to wait for that to dry. And then, so that way you can see there. Oh, it's actually just flew off. That's not good. Let's try and get that back on again. I maybe need to use different glue for this. But let's just see if that actually sticks. It does seem to be not sticking as well. So, we take some more glue. I may need to use different glue here. I'm just going to try and stick that through the holes. In the hope that that will stick. Try and rub this in. I don't want to touch the helmet at the front as well with any glue, so I'm trying to be careful. Right, I'm going to let that dry as much as I can. I will see if that actually sticks that down. Again, I'm being really careful not to touch the helmet at the outside with my fingers because I've got glue and paint all over them. I'm just going to let that seep in, and hopefully that will eventually work. Okay, I thought I'd try something a bit different here. Just realised my kids had some PVA glue, and I tried a little bit here, and that does seem to have stuck down. So I'm going to try some PVA glue, so it's allowing me to use a brush just to get some of the glue on, and hopefully that will stick. So this has only just been put down. We'll give this a couple of minutes, and we'll see if that actually sticks down. In fact, what I'm going to do is try and get another little square of fabric on top, just to see if it does the job. So let me cut this little square. I'm going to take some of this PVA glue that I'll put into this little box for the time being. I'm going to put some glue over the top. Add on that square. More PVA glue. Move it around a little bit so it covers the hole. This may or may not stick, so this is an experiment, because it is moving around. So if this doesn't work, then I may have to just use super glue. Obviously PVA glue will take a bit longer to dry. Dab that on. Now from the side, it's giving me the desired look in the mesh, but we shall see if this actually glues on okay. Let's give that a couple of minutes and see. Okay, so the PVA glue sort of stuck it down, but it was still a bit moved around it, or it still moved around a little bit, and I wasn't too sure of whether it would actually stick or not for the full course. So I think what I've done is the PVA glue has held it in place, and then what I've done is I've put super glue over the top just to solidify the bond on it. So that should hold it in place, but I think going forward I'll just use super glue because it's just not doing what I was hoping it would go on to do. And if I was doing this for the second one, I'll make the fabric smaller, just so I don't lose as much glue and things like that as well. But hindsight's a great thing. But that's what I'll do for the second one. So I've got a few more holes to do, these ones here. And once those are done, we should be able to move on to the second helmet. Now these ones here, I put on 3. Because these holes are so small, I only put on 2, and it's still giving me the desired effect. So I'll probably, for the smaller holes, I'll just use 2 pieces of fabric. For the bigger holes, I'll use 3, and that should see us. So I'll go ahead and start sticking on the rest. Ended up using super glue, as you can see, and I did actually use 3 pieces of fabric in either side, because I could tell the difference between the one that was using 2 and the one that was using 3. So I did use 3, but what I did was I cut them a bit smaller, added them over the holes, and the super glue seems to have done the job. Still a bit tacky, still waiting for that to dry fully, but that's now in place. So if you look at that from the front, you could see the mesh there, and that little hole there, hopefully. You've got a little hole here, and you've got these parts here as well. So by the time those dry and goes over the helmet with the canvas behind it, it'll look the part. So we'll do that to the next one, and yeah, we'll be all good. Okay, so although I feel as if I burnt out my retinas with the amount of super glue I had to use there to seep through, in future I'm going to see if I can find somewhere better. There must be some sort of spray glue or something like that I can use. It's now all patched up on the inside on both. As you can see there, I used less fabric in that one, so it was a little bit easier to manage. But I put 3 layers on each, and this one's still a bit damp, but you can see there, hopefully, you can see there that mesh coming through the gaps, the little holes. Hopefully you can see that okay. Yep. All the little bits there. So that's exactly what I was looking for. Now, as I say, it's still a bit damp on the inside, and I'm trying my hardest not to get any glue over anything. In fact, I can see a little smudge there, which I'm going to try and get rid of. Just dripping down slightly. Oh, that's okay. Yep, that's fine. So yeah, so that's how the mesh works. So I'm really happy with these. I'm just going to let this one dry a bit more. This one is pretty much there. It's still a little bit tacky, but it's holding in place. So while this one is dry a bit more, just put this down here. We're now going to look at the torch on the side. So we're going to look to see how we can get this on. So again, the torch has got a little bit of weight to it. It's not overly heavy, but it has got a little bit of weight to it. But this is going to glue. You can see here I've masked those parts. So this is going to glue on the inside. So it's like this. And it'll allow it to sit something like that on the helmet. So I'm just going to figure out best way of gluing that on. And then once that's on, we can then start to do it. So I'm trying to figure out, do I glue it on with the torch on it? Or do I glue it on and is it going to be strong enough to push the torch in? So I think I'm going to try it without that on first. And then see how we go from there. But hopefully, fingers crossed, that'll work. Now there is some paint here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to scrape it off because I forgot to mask that part. I'm just going to scrape it off with a scalpel just so I've got some of the plastic showing through and then start to glue that to the helmet as well. So I just need to figure out what's going to be the best position for this to work on the helmet. So again, let's take off my glasses. So it needs to be something like that. But you want it to be straight because that's not straight. It also looks like it's too, maybe it's just me, but that looks like it's too far down. I'm going to look at some reference photographs to see what's the best way of adding this on to the helmet. Because that just doesn't seem to be sitting too neatly for my liking. Seems to be slightly off. So yeah, we're going to have a look at that. Okay, I've got a bit of an issue. It's all going well there too. So this torch, if I take this part off, this torch should theoretically glue along or sit along the edge here. Hence the reason why I masked this out. So that should sit along the edge here. So it looks something like that. That's what should happen. However, with this holder on, if I put this back on, if this was to sit flush here, for example, it sort of sticks out and it's not flush against that, so that needs to sit up against that, and if I sit that up against that, that then does not sit against the inside of the helmet. So I need to figure out what's going on here, why that does not work. It looks like the STL files, for whatever reason, that part's not really been thought out of, and I'm trying to figure that out why. So I'm going to work on that, and we'll come back to you. I'm going to try something. For this to sit flat, or for the torch to sit flat against the edge, this edge here, this almost, I'll try and show you this on camera, this almost has to sit at a slight angle. So it's actually been raised. So rather than being flat, it's been raised. So obviously there's nothing here. If it was to be raised up to try and make that work and have something to glue against. So what I'm going to try and do is, using the milli putt, I'm going to try and build a little bit of a ramp here so that this sits at a slight angle so that the torch can then sit along the edge of this area here. So I'm going to give that a go, see if that works. And if that works, great. If not, then we need to think of something else. So I'm just going to try and see if we can make this work. Okay, so it's not pretty, but I managed to get the holder for the torch on the side. And as I say, I used milliput. So what I did was I stuck some milliput down, made it in a sort of ramp, pressed the holder against it to try and make sure I was getting the right angle, put in the torch, made sure I was happy with it, and then put some milliput over the top. This is still a bit tacky, so it's still drying, but it's pretty much there, and that will hold in place. So I'm just waiting for that to dry a bit more. And once it's fully dry, I'm just going to put a little bit of super glue around the edges just to make sure that it's held in place. But that will allow me to put in the torch, and I'll be able to glue the side part of the torch on as well. And that should hold it steadily in place, all going well. So I'm just going to let that to dry. But everything else is coming along. Everything else is looking good. As you can see, I'll cover up some of this as well. Once I get the torch on, just dirty it up, etc. You'll never see it. But you can start to see it's all really coming together quite nicely. After that, we'll get the bands on, we'll put it onto the helmet. We'll get the rubber bands around it, and then we can start to see how it comes in place. I'm still waiting on the stickers to come, vinyl stickers, and I'm using the Rebel logo because I prefer that one. I'm going to stick that on here once that comes, and then I'm going to weather that as well. But I'm thinking possibly of taking my soldering iron and melting almost like blast marks into this as well. Obviously, maybe need to do a wee bit touch up with paint, but I'm looking to maybe do that and go over the sticker as well, just to maybe add a little bit more dimension to it, as if it's been hit with a laser blast or something like that. I haven't decided yet, but I might do that. I would need to practice on a piece of plastic first, just to make sure that it all works. But we maybe try that as well. But this is coming along nicely, and we are so close. Inside, not pretty. It doesn't need to be, because it's going to be over the helmet. But that is now looking the part, and I am really, really happy with how that looks. Left this overnight. I just wanted to give it a proper dry, and that is now hard. So the milliput is now in place. I did put a little bit of super glue around the edges just to secure it even more, but that is now in place. So all going well, if I put the torch into here, just going to get the right part, because this is a print, it's got a little seam on that side. Just want to make sure that seam is hitting the edge of the helmet, so you don't see it. So that should just slot into there, and that actually holds it in place. However, what I'm going to do is just on the inside, I'm just going to add in a little bit of milliput in here, just so there's a connection between the helmet and this edge. So I'm going to do that just to give it a little bit of extra security. And then that should be done for that part. And then I'll just go in. That mask, if I knew in advance, obviously hindsight's a great thing. I probably wouldn't have just masked that out. So I'm going to have to go in there and just touch up in there, covered up the masked part. Just put a bit of dirt, some paint, things like that, and you'll not notice that. But that is now holding in place. So I'm really happy about that. And that will fit over the... In fact, let's check. Let's check if that will fit over the actual main part of the helmet. So if I put this over, just going to double check that this fits. And there we go. So you can see there, it is fitting over and not interfering with the actual helmet. So really happy about that. So we'll just add a little bit more milliput to the edges, as I say, just to give it like extra security, make sure this doesn't break or anything like that. And then what we'll do is I will just paint that milliput black just to hide it a bit more. And that part will be good. And then all I'm really waiting on now for this, in fact, what I'm going to do before I put the milliput onto this is I'm just going to give it another coat of lacquer as well, just to give one more covering, make sure it's happy. I'm happy with it. I will cover up the lens and things like that just to make sure the lacquer doesn't go into that. But I'm really happy with this. I think this looks great. I'll get the other one done as well. And yeah, all I'm really waiting on now is the sticker for the Rebel symbol. That I got that printed online. I put the link below of where I got it printed. It's a place called Sticker Mule. And once that arrives, I'll get that on there, I'll weather it. This is Wednesday. It's arriving on Friday. So I'll need to wait a couple of days, but I can get everything else done, prepare it, and that side of it is good to go. So yeah, I'll just put a bit of milliput on that, and that'll be that part done. Okay, one thing I've done is I had these little clamps, so I put in the milliput just along the edges there that you can see, and I've put the clamp in just to hold it in place because the torch was starting to just naturally move out. So leave that in place for a while. That should then, once it's set that in place, get no movement, paint inside black as I say, and touch some bits up here and there, and we're done. So just doing that just now. So I have my death stick box here. I have masked out the parts that I want the stripe to appear. I've also got the mustard, just so it adds in a few more scratches and things like that. I will do the back once the front has dried. Using my airbrush, I got this airbrush Icon Craft off of Amazon. It works really, really well. I've only used it a couple of times, but no, the compressor is not that loud, and you get lots of little things with it as well, more paint and jars and cleaning fluid and lots of other stuff. So anyway, let's just start painting this and see how we go on. Seems to be going on okay. So that seems to have went on okay. The red across, as you can see. So I'll wait for that to dry, then I'll add some scratches to the back, and then we can take off the mustard. So far, so good. That's looking all right. Leave them to dry, and then we can wash off the mustard. While we're waiting for the camera holder and the death sticks paint to dry, we're going to attach the little camera to the helmet. Now, the good thing is we don't need to use glue or anything like that, because the leather strap that's here, all I need to do is slot this on, and it's thick enough to actually hold in place. So if I move that into there, that is now in place. No need to glue, no need to do anything. That is now going to hold, and it's not going to fall off. So we're good on that. I'm just going to make sure the leather strap is square and it's in place. There we go. So that's looking good. So that's that one done. So that was an easy part. No need to use glue. I was thinking about maybe having to screw that on, but we don't need to do anything. That could just sit as so. Well, I'm just back from a trip in London, so I've had to wait a few days to finish this off. However, I had to wait on these stickers anyway, so these have arrived from Sticker Mule. It took 4 or 5 days to actually arrive because they had to come in from France or something like that. And these are vinyl cut letters. I ordered about 10 of them. I think there might actually be more here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, they'll give me a couple of spares, which is good. Allows me to sort of experiment a little bit more. So we've got this test sort of 3D print here. This is actually from the K2 Sohead, which will be my next build. But I just spray painted this green, with silver underneath, a primer filler, clear coat. So it's going to be similar to what's on the helmet. So I've got that here. I'm basically just going to stick one of these on here, experiment, see what I can scrape, make dirty, things like that, and see if I can actually make this work. So I'm going to put these to the side, and I believe you just pull this off, stick this on here. You get some sort of credit card or something, which I don't have on me, so I am going, in fact I do have a credit card on me. Let me use this, and just start to scrape this on. Make sure there's no bubbles. And hopefully I can just peel this off. Not quite yet. No, it seems to be sticking, which is going to be an issue. That should stick. Yep, that's not sticking. If anything, it's actually taking the paint off. So for whatever reason, it does not like that over it, unless it's meant to be. No, it can't be the other way. The vinyl is just not coming off. But it's actually taking off the varnish that I had over the top, as you can see there. So what I need to make sure that this actually sticks elsewhere. Okay, well that's a failed attempt. Let's have a look. I'm going to try sticking one on the side it's not painted and see if that works. Take that off. Stick here. Let's do the same again. See, there's no bubbles. It all seems flat. Let's see if that sticks. And that's not sticking either. Now it's starting to. Right. So it's stuck onto this surface after a little bit of coaxing. So that's what it should look like. So it does stick. But can't get it to stick onto the painted side, which is a bit of an issue. Right. I want to try again on the painted side. Obviously, I've only got a finite use of these logos, or use of these stickers. I'll try and put that there. If I've got anything, I'm actually going to use my ruler, which is harder. I don't care if I scrape the sides, this is just for a test. Just to see if I can get this on. I'm leaning quite hard, just to try and get it to stick. Hey, let's see. It does not like that paint. It really does not. Or it does not like the varnish. It's actually taking the paint off. as you can see. I'm going to have to rethink this. The one thing I am thinking about is this isn't a completely flat surface, it is, but this was a print side. Oh, sorry, the side that was on the base of the plate. And it's not flat, it is speckled in a little way and it's got a sort of texture to it. I'm wondering if that is stopping it from sticking, because it is sticking on this side. So maybe that will actually work on the helmet. But again, I'm a little bit nervous to do it on the helmet because it might take some of the paint off. Decisions. Okay, I was just a little bit off camera. I was just trying to get this to stick, and I have managed it to stick, but as you can see here, it's actually taking the paint off. What I'm having to do is I rubbed it with the back end of my scalpel, so I was doing this along all the edges as much as possible. And I'm literally just trying to slowly pull, rub down, pull a bit more, rub down, pull a bit more, rub down, and I'm basically just following that same process all the way through to try and get this to stick. It is raising here, but that's because the paint has came off. But everywhere else, it seems to be okay. Just a bit of perseverance. So that bit there obviously coming off because of the paint underneath has came off a bit. If anything, I would have scraped the paint off here. But it has, I'll turn it around so you can see it properly, but it has stuck to it now. What I might do when I try to apply this to the helmets is take a hairdryer just to apply a little bit of heat. I believe you can also get stuff you can spray. It's almost like a clear lacquer, so it's why I'm really surprised that this is sort of coming off. It's almost like a clear lacquer, which may help this stick down further. But I think just with a bit of perseverance and some heat, this will stick, and it doesn't seem to be coming up. So, and then hopefully then I can just do things like this and start to scrape if I wanted to put marks on it. As you can see there, that's sort of doing that, putting scrapes and scratches over it. So I'm doing things like that. Maybe I'm obviously just going a bit more extreme, but I would be a bit more careful. But I just take the back end of the scalpel just to get some scrapes on the print, which then dirties that up. And then what I'm also going to do is take some of this oil stuff. Same as what I used in the helmet before. Just going to take a wee bit of a rubbing of the oil. And I'm basically just going to go over the whole thing, just to dirty it up a little bit more. And get rid of those sort of white edges that the sticker is going to give you. I'm already seeing that's looking better. You see the difference there already. And then with some of those scratches, you can probably go in. I'm going to try the little brush as well, just to give me some different textures. And then obviously a clear varnish is going to go over all this as well. Once it's finished, I'll put a wee bit of clear varnish over this just to see, and I'll make sure, I'll do it on this first, make sure it doesn't react to the sticker as well. But you can see there, it's already starting to look the part. Now, what I was actually thinking about doing, I don't know if it'll work, I could try it, is basically take something hot, like my soldering iron, and melt across as if it's a gouge has been taken out, as if it's maybe been hit by something. I might try that next, just to see if it works. If nothing, I may as well, I've got this tester. I just want to see if it works. And see if that adds any more effect. Now, the only thing about doing this with the back end of the scalpel is it's white there, whereas if it was painted on, obviously, it would be green underneath, or at least silver. So I think I might try and I maybe don't do the scraping because it's just not quite the look I want. I'm just trying some of the rust here as well, just to see what I get. Just want to see what effect is. May as well try some of the blue. Yeah, blue's too much. Blue doesn't work what I want, so you can go as dirty as you want, but you can start to see it's already not looking as new and things like that. So I think what we'll do next is get out the soldering iron and see what it will look like if I burn across there. What that will do to the sticker as well. Let's try that. Just before I use the soldering iron, one other thing I've been trying is the back end of the scalpel. Just scraping away. That is taking some of the paint away and showing the silver, which I don't mind because we can cover that up with some of the oil from the powder. But basically just taking the back end of the knife and just scraping away the sticker until I rip some of it. And just pulling some of it away. Just creating some damage to it as well. So you can see there what it's doing to the sticker. Like I say, it has taken away some of the paint, which again is fine because you would get scrapes along it. I'll be a bit more careful if I was to do this on the helmet. But it's just giving you a bit more damage. Making it a little bit more realistic. And doing little things like that. So that might also be a technique I will use once I get onto the helmet. And then again, I can go over that again with some of the black, just to get some of the sort of black powder, just to hide some of that there, and just to dull it down slightly. That could be another possibility. So I thought we'd come outside, because I want to use a soldering iron, and I don't want to have the smell of that plastic and things like that in the office or in the man cave. So I bought this, I'll put the link below, but I bought this soldering iron kit on Amazon. Comes with all these different parts to it, the holder, the soldering iron, some spare parts, obviously the metal for doing the soldering, the actual soldering metal. But it also comes with these little things here, and there's one that looks like a knife for cutting through things, so I'm actually probably going to use that. I'm going to swap round the soldering iron tip to that one, and that should give me a nice sort of gouge, almost like cutting through the plastic, if it gives me the desired effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this in, let it heat up, and then we'll give you a closer look to see what I'm doing here. So the soldering iron is on. Got this ready here. I've swapped the blade round, or the tip round, for the knife looking one. And we're going to give this a go. Now, I suspect this might be a complete disaster, but I wanted to try it out anyway. So let's just gently go over it first. That actually worked out okay. Obviously you see the white plastic through it, but I can go through that with a bit of gunmetal grey, darken it up, some paint, and that could look the part. So let's just give another one maybe beside. And that's giving you some gouges, which may look a bit more realistic. We'll do one here, as if it came right across. Again, I'm just testing this. I wouldn't have it like that. I'd probably have one, maybe another one going right across, and broken up into stages. But that has given me the effect I was hoping for. Like that. So that's going to give me a bit of battle damage, which I'm going to implement, hopefully on the helmet. And then just a wee bit of paint touch up here and there. And that'll be it. So I was leaning fairly heavy with it. Not heavy, but not too heavy, but I'm just going to lean lightly and just move across. So I don't want to go right into the... Well, things like that, that's actually fine. I've got the right weight. That one, I can start to see some of the supports from inside the 3D print. But that was just me leaning heavily in it, melting, and then just dragging along. And that's the sort of look that I want. And then I can paint in here to get some of the metal coming through. I'll just use like a gunmetal grey, overlay it with some of the black powder. And that should start to look the part. But that's given me the desired look. So I think I will use that technique when I put it onto the helmet. Fantastic. Okay, I have my helmet. I have the sticker. Use the back side of the scalpel to try and put it on. Wish me luck, guys. So let's see what I can do here. Hopefully you can see this okay. Hopefully the camera's not zooming in and out too much. So basically, I want this to be around there. So we're going to stick that here. This being concaved, it's going to be a little bit harder. Just going to try, and I might need to actually cut here, just so I can put this round a bit easier. Get rid of any bubbles. Oh, really hope this works. This is the nervous part. This is what makes me really nervous, is these things. So I don't want to damage what I've done already, because I'm really happy with everything else. Suppose when you build anything, you always get that part you get a little bit nervous about. Whether it's Airfix models or miniatures or anything you're painting, or it's that sort of, all the hard work could be ruined by one act. Oof, right, wish me luck. Starting this corner. It's not, some of it's sticking. So what I'm going to do, it was doing the same as what it did on the flat one. So I'm just going to take back end of the knife, just to, and then my fingers, just to stick it on. Just going to slowly peel. I need to do up here because I cut it as well. Just going to take my time. These are the bits I'm a little bit more nervous about. Right, this has went on a lot easier. Still a wee bit sticking and things like that, but that's went on a bit easier than the flat surface test that I did, because it wasn't completely flat. I had that sort of speckled look because it was lying. I used the side light. It was lying on the bed, which has got a texture to it. And there's a few not bubbles as such, but it's not completely flat there, but it's doing its job. It's always a corner, so what I'm going to try and do is just work my way around until I can get to the corners, and then go up. Basically what you want to do is go away from the corners when you're finishing it off. Again, I'm just taking my time with this. There's a couple of bubbles in this, which I'm going to try and flatten out as I'm doing this. Just going to use the back end of the card. I don't want to scrape too much. Right, so I've got the backing off. I'm just going to try and flatten out as much as I can. And obviously the surface is going to have dirt on it and things like that as well, so it's not going to be completely flat. So maybe in hindsight, the dirt should have came last, possibly. And I might actually apply a bit of real dirt on top of this as well, just to dirt it up even further. So yeah, it's taking in some of the dirt from underneath, so that's why maybe it's not completely flat. So what I'm going to do is just take the back end of my knife and just gently, because I don't want to rip this, just gently rub the bits that I can. And as actually picking up some of the paint there, I can see. So I need to be very careful. You can actually see some of the paint coming off. So this seems to have a reaction to the varnish underneath. I can see there that paint has came up a little, which is odd. I think that's as good as we're going to get at this moment in time. Now, once I start to dirty this up, put some marks across it, hopefully you're not really going to notice much. So I'm just going to go over again. I'm just going to take my credit card. Well, it's an old bank card, bank I don't have anymore. And just go over it all. See, that's moving because of the varnish underneath. That's not good. I maybe need to try and... Well, once I'm finished, I am going to put a spray over it as well, hopefully. And that might make it stick. Because that is coming off slightly, so I really need to be careful with that. Just in case. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take the soldering iron and do a bit of work to it and sort of see what I can come up with. So I'll go outside and we'll try that. Okay, one thing I just did just before I look at the soldering iron, this bit here was coming off a little bit. It wasn't sticking quite as well as it should. So I just used the this sort of extra thin cement. Super glue would just melt through it. So I just added a touch of that to the helmet at the back there and put the sticker back down. And it seems to have held. So fingers crossed that this stuff will work. So it looks like that has held and it's not moving anymore. So that will hopefully solve that issue. So I used this stuff instead. So before I use the soldering iron, this was my test. I'm just going to put a little bit of the varnish, the clear lacquer over the top, just to make sure it doesn't react to the sticker. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this and see if this actually works well with it. So I'll spray some of that on, and I just want to see if that will dry and will look okay and not make it peel off or just react to it and start to bubble or anything like that. So I just thought I would try a little bit of that first. So let's see if I'll give that sort of 10-15 minutes and see what it does. Right, so I've got soldering iron, got the helmet ready. I'm going to put a couple of 2 or 3 lines across as if they've been scorched. Again, trying to do something like this, and that has had the varnish over it, and it does not seem to have reacted to the sticker, which is good. So fingers crossed all that will work. But again, nervous part. I'm going to take this soldering iron and I am going to just gently cut across in the hope that this will actually work. So do one there. Again, I want to be careful. Do one there. That's looking quite good. And I'll do another one coming right across. Maybe a little bit there as if it's... Because again, the rubber bands are going to be here. So I think that looks good. Because again, it's going to take a blast. It's not going to go there a wee bit here, and that's going to be like one blast going right across it, as if it's maybe been turned and missed a part, things like that. So I actually think that looks the part. And then in here, we'll just we'll paint little bits in here, and that will just give it a little bit of extra on this one. So done that. That seems to have done the part. I can also take my knife if I wanted to, and again, just to try and rip little parts here and there if I thought it was going to actually be beneficial. Just do little bits like so. And trying to be as careful not to damage too much of the helmet underneath. Doesn't matter if you take some of the paint off, because That's what would happen anyway. Just to give it a little bit of rip here and there. Just do that in certain places. So we do a wee bit there, do a wee bit here. I'm doing it along the line of where the blast mark is. Just to try to give it a little bit more weathering. So a bit like that, just round about it. I don't want to do too much, just little things like that. And we're just going to go round, just put little bits here and there. I'm going to leave this part because that's the part that I had to glue on. I'm just going to do it in little places. Just a wee bit here, moving away so I can get it. So I don't want to take the whole sticker off. Again, just to do little things like that, just rip it in places. So it's not too much, just wee bits here and there. That's all I'm going to do. Trying to see, so maybe I want something on this side. Again, I want to be careful with this, because that's where it didn't stick too well. So maybe what we'll do is just do a wee bit here. And I think that will do it for that. I'll get the second one done in the same way, or similar, and then we can start to put some of the weathering over the top. Like I say, I'm going to paint first, then I'm going to put some dirt over it, some real dirt, put some of the powder stuff over it, and then that should start to look more like what I'm looking for. I think that looks pretty good, as if it's just been hit with laser bolts or something. Yeah, looking good. I'll get the second one done. Finished applying the sticker, the vinyl sticker, put some blast marks into them. I put a little bit more into this one, just tried to make them both a bit different, as if it's been damaged. I'm really happy with how they look. I'm just going to add a little bit of model colour, gunmetal grey, just to hide the white parts. I could use chrome, but I thought with the blast marks, etc., it's going to be darker anyway. And then the time I add dirt and stuff like that to it, you're really not going to notice it. So I'm going to just take some of this gunmetal grey. I've got a brush, got this bit of perspex I always use for this sort of palette. I'm just going to put this lid on. Oh, got my brush. And basically what I'm going to do is paint in the little white parts. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the gunmetal grey, and I'm just going to paint in here just to cover the white parts. So it looks, you can already see the difference, hopefully, between it. You've got the gunmetal grey and there's the white. It's actually looking the part. So if I just take the gunmetal grey, just to put in here, you can see there it's just making it look as if it's scorched metal. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. I think chrome would be too much. It's just giving that effect. You can see the difference between both there. So I'm just going to put this in. If you wonder why I'm wearing a glove, it's for applying the dirt. Once I do this, I'll give this 10 minutes to dry or so. Put that in there. There, you can see the difference already. And then I'm going to put some black oil around that as well. And it will just start to look the part. So I'm just going to start painting all of these in. Just getting rid of some of that white plastic. And again, the dirt stuff that I put on will then hide the rest. Just getting this on. Yeah, you can see the difference already. I look between the two. Just trying to hide as much of that plastic as possible. There we go. So you can see there the scorch marks now. With the white plastic away. And again, more dirt and stuff like that will make that look even more apart. So that's one done. Let's look at this one. This one I've got some bigger scorch marks. Again, just wanted something different. Just trying to get rid of some of that plasticky look. Okay, I think we're good. So there's both the white plastic away and the scorch marks in place. So now I'll apply, just going to give that a couple of minutes. We'll apply a little bit of dirt and then the oil, and we'll be good to go. Paint will be pretty much dry now. And we could just start applying a little bit of dirt. I don't want to apply too much dirt to these because I've already got a lot of dirt all over. I'm just going to take a handful of dirt, rub it into my glove. So it's a bit like that. We got it too much, so I'm just going to rub some of that off if I can. And I'm just going to take some of this dirt. And actually what I'm going to do is go in the direction of the blast. Again, I just want to try and dirty this up a little bit more. Dull down that colour. I'm obviously going to dull down a lot of the colour when we do the oil pass. And I think that's all I'm going to do to that. Again, it just adds, you can see already dulling the colour down compared to the other one. So that's all I was looking for. So I'll leave that at that. Take the glove again. Maybe need a wee bit more dirt in my hand. Don't want to have too much. Just dull down some of that red. Wipe anything off for the rest of the helmet if I can, just to not make it too dirty. What I'll do is I'll leave that, let that dry. And see how it looks. Right, leave it, see how that looks. Back in my cave, those have been painted with the gunmetal grey, been a bit of dirt applied to it, starting to look the part, but I'm going to add a bit more of the oil stain, just to give it a bit more, just like I did with the test. So I'm just going to take my little brush, add some of the oil to it. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go along the edges where the blast happened first and do that just to add a bit more dimension to it. And if the blast is going to hit at the start, possibly, then that would probably be the darkest place. So I'm just going to apply just a little bit along there. Along these edges. And then just dabbing around everywhere else. Again, there's going to be bands going across this. So some of this you're not going to see. But you can already see the difference, hopefully, of the weathering between that one and that one. It's just starting to add a little bit to it. I'm going to add a wee bit more to that one because that's where the blast bits on the marks that I've got happened, just so it's on those edges. Just need to make sure that that's not going to come up. I may need to add a little bit more glue underneath that part just to make sure that that's going to stick because it's starting to come up slightly just because of that.
I think we'll probably leave that one. I'll maybe just add a wee bit to the back. Just around here. Again, some of this you're not going to see. I think that will do it. What I am going to do is I'll fix that later, and we'll just add a little bit of glue underneath here just to make sure that that's going to stay. So I'll just move this one to the side. Then I'm going to do the same with this one. Okay, I think we're good now. I take a look at both. Yeah, happy with that. I think that looks good. So again, I was using a soldering iron once the sticker was applied. Some real dirt, some oil, and now it's starting to get close to being complete. Today's the day. We're just about there. So I have a bit of a recap. I have the M1 helmet with a shroud, which we weathered. I've got the little camera attached to the side. So all that's done. Did all the weathering, coffee, tea, dirt, stones to scuff it, all the stuff you've seen in the video. So all that's done. I have my rubber bands to go around the hard part of the helmet. And within that, there will be the dev stick boxes. So those are going to appear in the side of each one. And I've got the helmet shroud, or whatever the helmet part that goes on top of the M1 helmet in place, all the weathering done, sticker in place, blast marks using the soldering iron, all that. Sticker is in place. Hopefully it doesn't fall off. Fingers crossed. But we've got that. I have some spare stickers anyway, if anything was to happen in future. And for anyone who's going to get the other one, if I raffle this off, I'll make sure you get a couple of extra stickers as well, just to be on the safe side, or you can stick on your laptop or something like that. So really happy how these look. I think they're starting to look the part. And now it's just putting everything together. So I'll move the camera so you can see that process, but today's the day when we finally finish the Rogue One helmet. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the rubber bands. I've got 2 rubber bands here. It's those black rubber bands. I got these on Amazon. Again, all the links for this whole build will be in all the videos. That'll go around this, over the sticker and around, and there'll be 2 of these around it. Then I'll put the dev stick box into it, and it's just a matter of putting it on top of the M1 helmet, and we're done. So just want to make sure that this is actually going to go all the way around. So one side of the rubber, in fact, they're both pretty much the same. So I'm just going to try and get this around the whole helmet. Hopefully it doesn't break it. So it stretches okay, so it should be fine. So I'm just going to stick that there. I'm really conscious of the torch as well, so I don't want to damage that. So I'm just going to put this over. Hopefully the tension doesn't actually break the plastic helmet. I'm going to try and coax this down. I want that under that lens, which I'll come back to, because I'll need to adjust. Just want to put that over. Again, I want it to be under the lens. I have one like that. It might take 3 of these rubber bands, I don't know, but we'll try it with 2 just now. And it doesn't need to be uniform, because you're going to have a bit of crisscrossing around it. So there's one in place. So I have one. Let's see what I can do with the second one. Again, just give it a stretch first. And again, I'm going to start from the same place. We start from this front. It's not easy doing this. Oh, let's try, yeah. I may need help with this, because it'd be better if someone was holding one end. Let me see if I do it this end first. Put this across. How many people does it take to put an elastic band on? Okay, just managed to stretch over. There we go. Managed to do it. Just want to make sure it's not folded over on itself. So it looks a bit like that all the way around. Just want to make sure it doesn't obviously affect the camera lens out. So I might do 3 because I think it might look better with 3, possibly. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see what it's like the desk stick boxing first. Okay, we'll go with that just now. I'm going to take one of the desk stick boxes and that will slot in here. So I just want these to come off or come away from the sides, and hopefully I could just slot that in here. So it's like that. Should look like something like that. I'm just going to move this more centered to the torch. So it looks something like that. And I think 2 might be enough. I don't want to put too much pressure around the plastic in case it was to, like, I don't know, break it or snap it or something like that. I might actually bring up the reference photographs again, just to give a better idea of what it looks like. But that there is looking okay. Happy with that. Yeah, I think I'll bring up the reference photographs just to have a quick look. Okay, looking at the reference, there is literally 2 rubber bands around that. That's all there is. So that's all I'm going to add to it. So I'm going to keep that as it is. You can see there on the, well, you don't see there because you can't see it just now. It does go under the lens, go across, etc. Actually, on that, it actually looks like the red band around the desk stick box actually goes underneath. So it actually goes to the bottom rather than the top, which is interesting. But I think I prefer it at the top. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is. But I think, ladies and gentlemen, we are done. I'm just going to crisscross some of that. Just want to get it so it's looking okay all the way around. But do you know what? I think that's it. So that's one of them put in place. Just going to move my camera back a little, because now we can take, if I move this out of the way just now, take our M1 helmet, move up a little bit. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a different angle so you can see this better. Okay, so you should be able to see that better. So I've got the M1 helmet, and now I have my other part. So really it is literally just fitting one on top of the other. I'm just going to make sure that this all fits and puts in place. I'm just going to have a look at the front to see how it looks like, because that's where we're going to display it. I'm just going to push this down gently, because obviously I don't want to break the part with the torch. And I think that is it. We'll have a better look when I put it onto the helmet stand. But that is a finished Rogue One Rebel Soldier helmet. How about that? Well, everyone, we finally got there. We have 2 complete Rebel Soldier helmets from Rogue One, stroke Andor. And I have to admit, I'm really, really happy with the results. I think they look fantastic, if I do say so myself, considering this is my first proper prop build, my first foray into 3D printing, weathering textures, that type of thing. I'm ecstatic with how these turned out, and these are going to look great in my collection. Although this one's going to look great in my collection. This one I will be giving away, and you'll find out more about that at the end of the video. But no, I've learned a lot of techniques doing this, weathering the plastic, trying to figure out how the chrome works against the paint when you're using the mustard masking technique. And for the most part, it worked. However, when in my next build, I'll probably varnish the chrome before I apply the next colour, because I think it'll work better with the next build, which I'll come on to in a second in terms of what that's going to be. But no, I'm happy with how it looks. No, having the real torch, the real lenses just makes it look more realistic and better. And yeah, I'm just happy. And hopefully you've seen all the techniques that I've used and it's something you'll be able to learn from. If there's anything you think could have been done quicker and better, tell me. Oh, please. I'm using this channel to learn this craft. But ultimately, what did this cost me to build? Now, obviously, I'm building 2 helmets. I'm basing the costs that I'm about to mention to you on 1 helmet and all the things that I've had to use to create this. I'm not going to mention all the things like sandpaper, that type of thing, because that's stuff you buy in packs that will last multiple projects, etc. I'm just going to give you the cost of materials to put this together and the paint that I used as well. So just to give you an idea of what it costs to then actually produce this. So to build this helmet, I bought STL files from a website called Cults. I actually thought I got it on Galactic Armor. I didn't. I just used that for reference. It was actually on Cults. Galactic Armor actually do kits. If you don't have a 3D printer, they actually do kits where you can actually buy them. But I think they only ship to the United States. But I found STLs on a website called Cults. Link, all the things that I'm mentioning, the links are in the description below. It was about £8 for the STL. The actual 3D printing of the elements, the shroud, the death sticks, some of the other parts that I had to put together, that was roughly between £7 and £8, and I'm rounding all these prices up just to make it easier. So say about £8 to print it all out, and I was printing out on ABS plastic. I just did it on white ABS plastic because I wanted something that's a bit stronger. I may experiment with other things in the near future. So that was an ABS plastic. The actual metal M1 helmet I got on Amazon. That was £40 for the helmet. The cover, the sort of fabric cover, was the most expensive part of this build. I don't have a sewing machine. I don't want to have a sewing machine because it's not going to be a lot of builds. I can justify the price of having stuff like that to make these things. Like I say, there's not a lot of builds I'm going to be making cloth elements. However, I'm saying that, that might change. But at this moment in time, I got this on Etsy from Mr. Hemingway Workshop. These are fantastic, really, really high quality. And these are £115 for the mesh cover. Sorry, for the cloth cover. So that was the most expensive part of this build. The stickers I got from a website called Sticker Mule. Minimum order was 10, and that was shipped about £35 for the vinyl cut stickers. They're probably cheaper out there. I was doing it quick for this, but in future I'm going to see if there's anything in the UK where I'm based just to make it cheaper. But £35 for the stickers. The camera, the lenses, and there was 2 for each build, so you can get 2 lenses on Amazon, and that was £14 for both of those lenses and the sort of camera modules. Rechargeable torches, they come in packs of 2, and that was £14 for the 2. So we're saying, say roughly £7 for one, but you would need to buy a 2-pack unless you can find something similar. So we'll just say £14 for argument's sake. And the rubber bands is a pack of about 20 or 30, again on Amazon, links are all below. It was about £6 for a pack of the rubber bands. So that was the elements to put everything together. Everything else was 3D printed, so that was okay. As for the paint, I used the chrome paint, was around £13. The olive green was about £12. The sort of primer black, and the normal primer black was about £6 for that motif primer. The filler primer, the grey stuff, was about £12. Although I spent just under £20 on a 2-pack, but one is about £12. And the lacquer sort of spray, the matte lacquer, varnish, whatever you want to call it, was about £6. So it was about £49 in paint, etc. It was about £240 in all the materials and the printing. So all in to build this helmet was about £289, let's just say £290 rather, to put it all together. So just under £300.
and then my time learning it, the joy of putting this together. Not ultimately, apart from maybe the sanding, no one likes sanding. It was trying to figure it out, the paint, everything else, and just seeing it come to life as you're doing it. Those little bits of moments when you're nervous about, oh, is this going to work? Like the sticker, for example, and then using the heat gun over the top, or the soldering iron rather, over the top to get those score marks. All these things, you go, please don't screw up. But it seems to have all worked, and I'm really happy with the results. And this is going to be in my collection, and it looks, hopefully you can see it, but in my opinion and to my eyes, it looks like something you would buy from, you know, a licensed collectible. So I'm really, really happy with the end result. And yeah, so about £300 or just under £290 if you want to build this yourself and using the techniques that I've used. And again, there's probably cheaper options out there, things that you can buy that's going to maybe make it a little bit cheaper. It's probably little bits that I could have done a bit better in places. But ultimately, if you want to do something like this, no, the STL files, for example, you can just have an STL printed torch or a 3D printed torch. The lenses, you don't need to go to that length, so if you don't want to, and that'll bring the cost down. But I ultimately just wanted to do something different and learn something new at the end of the day. So that's my Rebel Soldier helmet from Rogue One build, and I hope you enjoyed the video, or the videos of me putting this process together. So what's my next build going to be? Well, we're going to keep with the Rogue One theme and the Star Wars theme, and I'm going to have my first foray into electronics and in a way animatronics. So I'm going to be doing a Droid Division K2SO head. So I've got the STL files from Droid Division, a great website for resources on how to build droids, etc. from Star Wars. And I'm going to be building the K2SO head with light up eyes that not only light up but move. That's the animatronic part. So there's going to be hopefully electronics which will move the eyes. I'm also going to try to incorporate a voice box type system into it, where either a press of a button or a remote control if I can find something to do that. Whereas when you press that, it'll play sort of different audio files based on K2SO's voice. So that is going to be the next build. Learning electronics, figuring out how all that works, and using some of the techniques I've learned about the weathering and things like that, and trying to take that over to the K2SO head and try to do something a bit different with it as well. Like I say, with this one, I had the chrome, I then overlaid the olive green once I masked it, and it's given me actually a look that I like, and I think it actually works really well. But for K2SO, I'm probably going to varnish the chrome first before I apply the mask in the other colour, and see what techniques and how that looks, just to give me more of the metallic rather than the black coming through. So I'll be trying a few different techniques, viewing the animatronics, the electronics, and seeing if I can make that work. So that's going to be my next build in the next video. So stay tuned for the K2SO head build. And if you're wanting to win the second helmet that I made for Rogue One, this exact helmet here, if you want to win this, tune in for my video tomorrow, and I'll explain how you can get your hands on this, and this could be winging in its way to you for you to have in your collection. So look out for tomorrow's video. Until then, I'll see you next time.